Welcome back. This week we're talking about episode 3 of American Horror Story Coven. I stumbled onto a website this past week that I'd like to recommend. It's called 8tracks.com. On there you'll find playlists created by users that span a huge range of subjects, emotions, themes. One that I would recommend is the one that I was listening to when I wrote this script for this review. Just Like the White-Winged Dove by user Natalie Wood is a mix inspired by Misty Day. So before you run off and listen to that, and without further interruption, let's start the review. Quick episode recap. Young Fiona murdered her way to the top.
I'll see you burn in hell first.
Fine. Save me a spot.
New neighbors moved in next door to the Coven.
What are you two yapping about?
New neighbors moving in next door.
Delphine was put to work as the housemaid.
You are the new maid.
Zoe brought Kyle back to his mother's house.
Maybe seeing her will help heal him in some way.
I healed him.
Nan and Madison brought a cake over to the Ramseys.
Welcome to the neighborhood.
Cordelia got some bad news from Murray Laveau.
You the daughter of my sworn enemy.
Fiona spent some time bonding with Madison.
I was a horrible mother, and I regret it.
Queenie seduced a Minotaur.
We both deserve love like everybody else.
Kyle taught his mother a severe lesson on how no means no. And Fiona killed Madison.
This coven doesn't need a new supreme.
I don't know if I've said this in my previous reviews, but I am a huge fan of lore and world building in the stories that I read and watch. And this week's cold open got right down to it. So it turns out that not only is there one witch in every generation with all the powers a witch could possess, but there are trials, 7 wonders, and a declaration by this council we keep hearing about.
It's not unusual for a talented witch to manifest 4, even 5 innate gifts once she starts to flower. But that does not make you the supreme. Only the mastery of the 7 wonders could prove that.
What's especially interesting to me, though, is the idea that the rise of one supreme gradually kills her predecessor. It's a cool idea when you think about it. It explains Fiona's motivation for trying to find that injection of rejuvenation, and it also explains why Fiona devotes so much time to Madison this episode, but more on that later. Before that, though, I have to mention Jessica Lange's excellent monologue about the dance.
It's always my dance. I make the first move, which is no move at all. I've always just understood that they will eventually find themselves in front of me.
One of the reasons I adore Jessica Lange is her delivery. Get her in a monologue and she will ride it all the way to the end. It's especially poignant given the character she's playing, a woman honored as the supreme, reminiscing over her conquests in life. So good. Zoe played a rather small part this week. Most of her storyline focused on Kyle being brought home and his experience being back with his mother. You know, Zoe has some good intentions, but she's far too naive to be making good decisions.
Misty, I have to take him home. His mother's a wreck.
For some reason, bringing a grieving mother her once dead, now Frankenstein's son just sounds like a bad idea from all angles. For one, Zoe took Kyle away from Misty. Now, I realize that Misty may have been getting a little too familiar with Kyle, but to me that just seems like her personality. More than anything, I think Misty is lonely out there in the swamp, and she just needs to find out where she belongs.
Can't be your best self until you find your tribe. I'm still looking for mine.
I think Misty needs to meet Nan. I think the two of them would get along, because Nan would get into Misty's head and understand what she's talking about. Aside from Misty, Zoe's interference had some pretty dire consequences for Kyle's mother. Of course, how was Zoe supposed to know that Mrs. Spencer had an unhealthy relationship with her son? It's not like there were any red flags that came up in the conversation.
When his father left, he became the man of this house.
Okay, in hindsight, maybe there were some red flags. I certainly wanted to throw up a red flag when Mrs. Spencer crawled into bed with Kyle and started kissing him. Then, of course, things escalated from there, and by the next scene, Kyle had had enough of that. This storyline has me wondering a few things about Kyle, mainly whether or not he's actually Kyle in that head, or if by mixing the different body parts, the ritual caused multiple people into that body. Having several voices in one mind can definitely explain why Kyle has been unable to speak more than, just one word since he was brought back. The Coven got some new neighbors this week, the hyper-religious Joan Ramsey and her son Luke. I guess you can't have a show set in the American South without at least one Bible thumper, but I'm not sure what kind of role Joan and Luke will play in the episodes to come. Of course, they were there when Madison manifested her pyrokinesis.
I didn't know you could do that.
Neither did I until now.
But aside from putting her in a position to do so and then reporting it to Fiona, I'm not sure what else they could do. I doubt they will put Luke in a position of romancing one of the girls, and I'm sure Joan would prefer to have nothing to do with the school, so they may not play much of a part at all. It's kind of up in the air. Delphine's place in the show was cemented this week, as she was tasked by Fiona with keeping the house as its new maid.
Have you any idea with whom you are speaking?
Yes, the maid, unless you want to go back in the box.
After this week's episode, I think I like Delphine better as the racist maid than the sadistic lady of the manor, especially since now she has to bend to Queenie's every whim. The two of them are certainly an odd pairing, but the conversation they have prior to the Minotaur's arrival was surprisingly honest. I didn't expect Queenie to be so frank about her weight and feelings.
Peach cobbler won't keep you warm at night. Her problem ain't food, you dumb bitch. It's love. Dr. Phil says that kids from broken homes use food to replace love. It's comforting. Really.
Granted, the conversation was before Queenie learned Delphine's true identity. Of course, things get right weird once the Minotaur shows up. It wasn't clear what Queenie was trying to do by luring the Minotaur around to the side of the house, but once it became clear what she was doing, I was ready to start throwing out red flags again. I feel bad for Queenie because she equates sex with love, and she is so desperate for love that she looks at a Minotaur and thinks, it's fair game. I don't want to sound too specious against mythical creatures, but I don't think Minotaurs going around having sex with humans is a good thing. It certainly doesn't look like a good thing for Queenie, as the last we see of her, she's getting grabbed by the face all sudden and scary-like. I shudder to think at what's in store for her later in the season. Elsewhere in this episode, Cordelia did some things. Really, the only reason I bring her up is because she went to Marie Laveau and was laughed out of the place.
Ain't gonna do no poach-up medicine on you.
The more I see of Angela Bassett as Marie Laveau, the more I like her. While it's not a bad thing to like a character, it puts me in an odd scenario where I really like the two opposing sides of a conflict. I don't know who to root for in this war. Now, if Cordelia was the only one on the side of the witches, then I would be all for the voodoo, because I cannot stand her. It's bad enough that she's so timid, but she doesn't like using her powers, and that is ludicrous. I would use the heck out of magic powers if I had them. Madison certainly had no problem using her powers, and that's how she showed up on Fiona's radar. Once Fiona started paying so much attention to Madison, I thought she might try to pull a Freaky Friday and body switch with her in order to remain the Supreme for another generation. It certainly seemed like a possibility, especially when Fiona started seeing Madison as a younger version of herself in the bar. I figured Fiona would do a spell and the two of them would switch bodies somehow. Of course, that's not what happens. I actually did not expect Fiona to kill Madison like she killed Annalee, the Supreme, before her. Totally caught me off guard. Especially since it's only the third episode and Madison is a major character. I know she was a tough character to like, but I think I'm going to miss her filling the snark quota in the house. I think it's pretty safe to say that this week's episode took a few turns that I was not expecting. Looking back at my previous predictions, I'm not sure how many are actually going to come to pass, but might as well make some new predictions while I'm at it. As much as I hate to say it, I think Queenie will get pregnant with a little Minotaur calf. Ew. I know it's pretty much shown in the preview for next week, but the council is definitely going to come down hard on Fiona for killing Madison. If Cordelia doesn't end up getting pregnant, she's going to complain a lot about not getting pregnant. Guaranteed. And I think Zoe is going to call on Misty to help her get rid of Mrs. Spencer's body.
I'll come back for you, I promise.
Episode 3 had a lot of twists and turns, some really good dialogue, and a few scenes that I wish I could unsee. All in all, though, I liked the replacements leagues better than boy parts. This episode kept me engaged the entire time, even during the Cordelia scenes, and even had me on the edge of my seat at the end. I really liked Jessica Lange's monologue about the dance. Angela Bassett's refusal to help Cordelia was hilarious. And seeing Kathy Bates have to play a racist lady forced to schlep for a black girl was so good. I still could have done without the mommy and Minotaur rape, but apparently rape is a big theme in this show. Hooray! Next week, Frances Conroy is back, and from the look of things, Fiona is in some pretty hot water. I can't wait. As always, please comment below to keep the conversation going. Subscribe to my channel for more of these weekly reviews of American Horror Story Coven, and follow me on Twitter to see what I have to say during each episode. So until next week, I'm Rick D, and thank you for watching.
That magic box lies.